Successful businesswoman hires her ex to clean floors, but what happens next is transformative. Mia Thompson stood at the counter of her favorite cafe, a hot cup of coffee in hand, surveying the bustling room around her. The scents of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries wrapped around her like an embrace. She was proud, 34 and thriving in Nashville's cutthroat real estate market. Yet, the moment her eyes landed on a familiar face across the room, her heart raced and the world around her faded. Jake, her first love, the artist who had once filled her life with color. Now, he was a cleaner. Their eyes locked, a mix of nostalgia and unresolved tension shimmering in the air. Mia's chest tightened. She had clawed her way out of poverty, determined and relentless. She had made herself into someone, a number on a business card that commanded respect, a real estate entrepreneur. But standing before Jake, the dusty memory of their shared dreams hung above her like an ominous cloud, suffocating the air between them. Did he see her success as a betrayal, a reminder of everything he wasn't? Taking a shaky breath, she approached him, her resolve shaking. "Hey, Jake." Her voice wavered, uncertainty creeping in. He smiled, a tentative flash of warmth in his gaze, followed by a moment's hesitation. Memories of late-night discussions about art and ambition, dreams they'd nurtured together, flooded her mind. Yet now, she was burdened by the weight of their past, a woman defined by her achievements, hiring him as her cleaner. For Jake, the mirror of her success likely reflected all that he felt he lacked. How could she reconcile the admiration she once held for his artistic spirit with the reality that he now scrubbed floors? "Mia, it's good to see you," he said, the softness in his voice seemingly challenging her. They stood awkwardly between the barista and the door, a barrier that echoed in the space where their relationship used to thrive. Her thoughts raced. Could she hire Jake, knowing the implications it carried? She needed someone reliable for her new office, desperately requiring both cleanliness and trust. Hiring him felt like a betrayal and an act of compassion all at once. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days blurred into weeks as their arrangement brought a unique mixture of laughter and tension. Workdays flowed with easy camaraderie, yet beneath the surface, unspoken words lingered. Dreams once shared igniting with every interaction. Each lunch became a dance of flirtation and misunderstanding, memories awakening dormant fears. Would their past haunt them, or could they build something new, free from old expectations? But the stakes had never been higher. Mia was offered a lucrative deal that could cement her legacy, the prize before her, her life's ambition. Coinciding with this was Jake's chance at a gallery show, an invitation she had dreamt of for him, but could never compel him to chase. Caught in the crosshairs of ambition and loyalty, the pressure twisted in her gut, each pang of doubt echoing through her. If she pushed through the opportunity, would it mean crushing Jake's dreams just as the world had crushed their aspirations before? The thought felt like a tightening noose. In these moments, the painfully clear realizations pushed and pulled against her heart. She stared at herself in the mirror, the reflection not just of a successful businesswoman, but a woman caught between two worlds, one that promised wealth and recognition, and another with a past that screamed for healing and resolution. Her doubts clung like shadows, while the clock ticked louder, each second a reminder that the decision loomed ever closer. Mia's phone buzzed incessantly on her desk, pulling her from the depths of her tangled thoughts. Notifications from clients clamored for her attention, each ping insisting on its urgency. She sighed, moments of clarity dissolving into the cacophony of her responsibilities. There was no escape from the demands of her ambitious life, not even for her inner turmoil involving Jake. As she flipped through her messages, a deep resolve began to germinate within her. After all, she wasn't just a businesswoman. She was a creator, a force in her own right. The success she had carved out for herself wasn't an accident. It was intentional. Every deal struck and property purchased a step toward her goals. But that knowledge felt half-formed next to her past with Jake, an artist who once ignited her dreams with vibrant hues of possibility. Every morning she watched as Jake transformed the vacant office space into something both clean and welcoming. In each sweep of his mop or flick of a cloth, she saw moments shared, his laughter mingling with her own as they once roamed art galleries, their minds dancing with creativity. Now, however, his presence sparked questions within her about trade-offs. What had they sacrificed at the altar of ambition? She couldn't ignore the consternation growing inside her, a seed of doubt that sized up her choices and their implications. "Mia," Jake cautiously interrupted her thoughts one afternoon as they packaged supplies for a local charity event. "Are you okay? You seemed a bit distracted." His gaze searched her, probing deep. Mia's cheeks flushed with unwelcome heat. "I'm fine, just, the usual stress," she replied, brightening her tone to lessen the weight of her confession. But inside, the familiar tension grew. The gaping distance from where they had started gnawed at her. They finished the task in silence, each aware of an electric thread tying them together, yet holding back, fearful to yank it too hard. Could they redefine their connection in this new reality? Mia questioned, feeling a duality of longing and fear wrestle for dominance within her. Later that day, she attended a market meeting to discuss her newly proposed project, a luxury development that could elevate her status from just another player in real estate to a trendsetter. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, yet Mia couldn't help but think of Jake's gallery opportunity. His talent deserved to shine. How could she take the spotlight for herself when his dreams had been intertwined with hers since their youth? Conversations merged into proposals, charts, and visions, but her mind drifted back to Jake and the potential he seemed to forget existed. Encouragement washed over her as a slowly growing realization set in. Perhaps she could help him seize his moment, even if it meant recalibrating their own paths. Could she lift him up while maintaining her ambitions? After the meeting, Mia hesitated at her office door, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. It was time to confront that tenuous balance between personal sacrifice and professional strength. She realized that their futures need not be at odds. With newfound conviction, she collected her thoughts, preparing to discuss the opportunity with Jake, a risky proposition that teetered between collaboration and possible rejection. Just as she dialed his number, an unexpected text notification popped up on her screen. She glanced down, her heart sinking. An email detailing the terms of the deal she had dreamt of also revealed greater sacrifices than she anticipated. Moments later, the phone rang. Mia stared at the screen, her heart racing. Was this the moment she could redefine her story with Jake, or would it pull them apart as she feared? With a sharp intake of breath, she answered, caught between hope and the sudden weight of impending choices. The moment felt pivotal. "Mia, we need to talk," Jake said, his voice steady, yet charged with something she hadn't felt before. A mixture of anticipation and dread settled in her stomach as she braced for the conversation. Would it be a leap toward their healing or a plunge into deeper conflict? As they navigated their past, the future loomed uncertain, and all she could think was this was only the beginning. Mia held her breath, the world around her fading as Jake's voice filled the space. She leaned against her desk, its polished surface cool against her warm skin. Every word felt loaded with potential outcomes, promising possibilities that could either weave their lives back together or utterly unravel them. What did he mean by needing to talk? Did he sense her internal struggle? "Can we meet?" Jake asked, an edge creeping into his tone. The tension in Mia's chest tightened. "Sure, how about the cafe down the street?"
They set a time, and as she hung up, unease settled in her stomach. She glanced at her laptop, the looming project deadline oscillating in her peripheral vision. But Jake's lingering presence distracted her, making it hard to focus on her carefully plotted plans. As she prepared for their meeting, her mind raced with thoughts. This could shape everything: her ambition, their connection, the fragile balance of sacrifice for success. What if they could find a path that neither diminished their respective dreams? Her newfound resolve felt like a fragile thread, but she held on to it, determined to explore what could yoke their destinies together, if they allowed it. The cafe buzzed with the aroma of fresh coffee and the excited chatter of patrons, a stark contrast to her internal chaos. She arrived early, rehearsing her words as if she were navigating a business presentation, anxiously tailoring her pitch for both of them. When Jake walked in, his eyes found hers, and in that moment Mia recognized the shift, the weight of unspoken words pressed between them. Sitting across from each other, the air crackled with anticipation and an undeniable tension. "Mia," he started, searching her expression with a seriousness she rarely saw. "I've been thinking about my gallery, the way I've let it slip into the background. I should have shared my struggles with you, but I didn't want you to think less of me. You've always had it all together." The vulnerability in his admission tugged at Mia's heart. She felt a wave of empathy and a flicker of anger rise within her. Had Jake truly thought so low of himself? She leaned forward, steeling her voice. "You are more than enough, Jake. Your art was never in question. You just needed to step into the light." His gaze flickered with uncertainty, but something shifted within him as he took a deep breath. "I guess I'm scared. I see you moving forward, climbing high, and I'm stuck." The sting of his words reverberated. "You think you're stuck because you haven't tried, Jake. What if we merged our visions? I'm launching a project, and frankly, it could use your creative touch. It's a luxury space, but it needs heart, a narrative behind it." Jake blinked, absorbing her words. "You'd want to collaborate? A clean floor and a few brush strokes?" "More than that," she replied, her intensity growing. "Imagine us joining forces. You bring the spirit, I'll handle the business. We could reignite that spark we had. The world deserves to see your talent as much as my ambition." A moment of silence stretched between them, fraught with hope and the weight of their past. He leaned back in his chair, contemplating. "It sounds risky." "Every great venture is," she countered, heart pounding. "I want to lift both of us up. I need you in my professional life as much as I want you in my personal one." His expression wavered, confusion and desire wrestling within him.
Would he take the leap of faith? What would it mean for what they shared? "And what if it doesn't work out, Mia?" he finally asked, a hesitant tremor underscoring his voice. "Then we face it together. But if we don't try, we might lose the chance to discover what we could be to each other." Jake's eyes locked onto hers, a mix of fear and determination sparking within them. The cafe noise faded around them, enveloping them in a cocoon of shared possibility. But just as the weight of their choices loomed ever larger, Mia's phone buzzed again, shattering their moment. It was an urgent email that demanded her attention. The project blueprint needed her immediate revisions. Suddenly, the calm of their conversation was pierced by the reminder of her ambitions and the imminent reality of their demands. Mia read the email and felt a sinking sensation. The stakes were higher than she'd anticipated. "I'll be right back," she said, urgency prompting her feet to hurry. As she walked away, questions raced through her mind. Could she balance her vision for success while nurturing their fragile connection? And as she glanced back for a fleeting moment, she wondered, was this negotiation the beginning of something transformative or the precursor to an inevitable dissolution? With uncertainty flooding her thoughts, she knew this conversation was just the tip of an iceberg she had only begun to explore. Mia navigated through the cafe's bustling crowd, her heart racing. The urgent email stole her focus, dragging her away from the fragile equilibrium of their conversation. As she stepped outside to gather her thoughts, the cool air pressed against her skin, invigorating yet sobering.
Her mind spun with the complexities of deadlines and the weight of Jake's words. Would their professional collaboration bridge the gap in their personal connection, or would it only serve to intensify the fractures? The email blinked relentlessly on her phone, calling for immediate revisions on the project's blueprint. Each line felt like a promise she had to keep, both to her team and to herself. She took a deep breath, pushing aside the uncertainties that loomed over her. This project had been months in the making, and every detail mattered. It was the launch she had imagined, an opportunity to reshape not just her career, but also her personal narrative. Sitting on a bench outside the cafe, she opened her laptop and reviewed the project plan. Her mind buzzed with ideas to infuse heart and narrative into the space, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Jake. If they were to collaborate, she needed to be more than just a businesswoman. She had to be a leader, an ally who could inspire him to rise from the shadows he felt trapped in. What if he couldn't let go of his fears? Each moment they spent apart gnawed at her resolve, his vulnerability awakening a fierce protective instinct within her.
"You can be great, Jake," she whispered aloud, as if whispering a mantra could ignite the spark she wanted him to reclaim. But the reality was that she couldn't force it. He had to step forward willingly. After making the necessary edits, Mia closed her laptop and returned to the cafe. Jake still occupied their table, a visible swell of emotion playing across his features. She could see the gears turning in his mind, the chase of excitement and the fear of inevitable failure wrestling in his eyes. "I'm sorry," she said softly as she slid back into her seat. "I got caught up in work." He nodded, the uncertainty still swirling. "I get needing to focus, but I can't help but think, what if it doesn't work out? I wouldn't want to be the reason you fail." Mia leaned forward, her gaze steady. "Do you believe that I haven't risked everything to get where I am? Every big leap comes with fear, Jake. It's part of the journey. We must believe we're stronger together than we are apart. Let me show you." The disbelief faltered in his eyes. Something shifted, perhaps a glimmer of hope mixed with fear. What if I failed again? Failure can be a stepping stone, not a crumbling block. I've learned that success isn't just about rising high. It's also about learning to navigate falls. You and I could create something beautiful, and I won't let fear pull us down. Her conviction echoed between them, stirring the atmosphere like an electric current. Inspiration replaced fear for a moment as Jake studied her face. The silence between them deepened, layered with shared vulnerability and urgent possibility. Yet just as the heaviness began to lift, a familiar face swept through the cafe door. Mia's heart sank, recognizing Ava, her relentless competitor. The air shifted palpably, tension rising anew. With her sharp business acumen and ambitious charm, Ava could turn the tides of any venture with fierce ambition. "Is that Mia? I must say I find it curious to see you here seeking help in unusual corners," Ava announced with a self-satisfied smirk. Mia's cheeks flushed with indignation, but she quickly masked it with confidence. This encounter might undercut their vulnerable moment, but it also represented a challenge. Ava had a way of exposing insecurities, and she couldn't afford to show weakness, especially not in front of Jake. Jake turned towards Mia, sensing the shift. "Should we be worried?" he asked, half joking, but clearly on edge. "No," said Mia, the determination returning. This was a test she had to face, not just for herself, but for the vision she wanted to create with Jake, one that could withstand any outside pressure. As Ava sauntered closer, ready to dissect Mia's choices, Mia's mind danced with plans. She would emerge stronger. Together, she and Jake would turn those judgments into fuel for their ambition, regardless of who stood in their way.
"Let's talk about showcasing your art," she said, addressing Jake as if the encroaching tension didn't exist. She held firmly to her conviction, ready to navigate anything that might come up. With each word, she rebuilt her resolve, aware that every move on the board was pivotal. The next chapter of her life was just beginning to unfurl, and she aimed to seize it, one challenge at a time. But as Ava opened her mouth to deliver her next calculated remark, Mia felt a surge of adrenaline. This confrontation could either be a distraction or an opportunity. She had to decide quickly, to protect what she was building or confront whatever threats loomed, ready to shield her vision against the tide. The question hung in the balance as time stood still. Would Mia be strong enough to face this onslaught head-on, or would she let the pressure shatter her newly formed alliance with Jake? Mia felt the weight of Ava's gaze penetrating her resolve as she took a deep breath. The jarring moment of interruption transformed into a canvas of opportunity. Standing tall, she braced herself not just to respond, but to reclaim her narrative. "What do you want, Ava?" Mia managed, masking a tremor of unease with poise. Her heart raced, not from fear of confrontation, but from a newfound clarity. She realized Ava's presence could either threaten her momentum or ignite an unwavering determination to prove herself. "Just curious about your latest partnership," Ava said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Are you two really going to make this work? I mean, you both come from such different worlds." Mia felt Jake shift beside her, uncertainty creeping back into his demeanor. She sensed his hesitation in him, prompting her to act. "It makes it sound like collaboration is a liability rather than an asset. It's a strength, Ava, and it's precisely why I'm not afraid to take risks." Ava smirked, clearly unperturbed. "It's a risk that could cost you everything. We both know the fallout from mixing business with personal history." Mia's patience wore thin, and she felt the fire within her rekindling. She tightened her grip around the table edge, grounding herself in the moment. "Let me be clear. Our history informs our future. We've both made our share of mistakes, but that's what growth looks like. It isn't always pretty." For an instant, silence enveloped the cafe, allowing Mia's voice to resonate fiercely amongst the clatter of mugs and murmurs. She turned to Jake, finding his eyes wide with admiration, a flicker of confidence igniting in him, mirroring her own. "Fear only holds power if we let it," Mia continued, her focus unwavering. "You might be right, Ava. Maybe success isn't guaranteed, but the risk of trying is far less than the regret of not seizing potential." Jake nodded, slowly lifting his chin. The atmosphere shifted, their shared fortitude enhancing with every syllable. Ava opened her mouth to retort, but ultimately her sneer seemed slightly less sharp. The next turn in their story awaited them, and it might just change everything. Mia's thoughts spiraled, racing through the implications of her recent confrontation. The pressure was mounting, and the deadline for their gallery opening loomed like a thundercloud. She focused on Jake, who was biting his lip, a clear indication he was wrestling with his own demons. She needed to bring clarity, not just for herself, but for him as well. "Let's break this down," Mia said, shaking off the remnants of their earlier exchange with Ava, as if shaking off dust from a faded memory. "What are our specific goals for this project? What do we want our audience to take away?" Jake leaned back, crossing his arms, uncertainty creeping back into his expression. She could see the flickering flame of doubt reignite in his eyes. "I don't know, Mia. It's just, I've failed before. I can't let that happen again." His words hung heavily in the air, punctuated by the ambient sounds of the cafe. It broke her heart to see him falter. Mia knew too well how the weight of past failures could crush the spirit. "Jake," she began carefully, "that's the risk we take. But failure doesn't define you. It's how we grow. We have to learn from it, not be shackled by it." Her conviction felt like a lifeline thrown at him, and she hoped he would grasp it. She could sense Jake processing her words, the gears of his mind visibly turning. As he looked out the window, absorbing the sunlight bathing the street, she sensed a softening, as if the warmth was melting away the ice of his fears. "What if I can't do it?" he whispered, more to himself than to her. Mia took a deep breath, recalling her own moment of hesitation just moments before Ava had confronted her. "Do you remember why we decided to work together in the first place?" she reminded him, drawing on their shared history. "We balance each other out. Your strengths complement my weaknesses. Do not let doubt steal that from us." He nodded slowly, absorbing her words, a flicker of understanding appearing in his eyes. "I want to believe that," he said cautiously. "But what if I let you down?" "In the end, it's not about perfection," Mia said, her voice steady and resolute. "It's about persistence and authenticity. If you struggle, I'll be there to support you. We're in this together. Let our challenges shape our success, not dictate it." A silent beat passed between them. She could feel the unspoken promise solidifying their partnership, the weight of their individual vulnerabilities becoming manageable when faced together. "Okay," replied Jake, the shadow of doubt still present, but a newfound resolve undercutting it. "What's the first step?" Mia felt her heart race. The moment felt pivotal, marking a shift in their dynamic. "We need to refine our concept, and I want us to unite our artistic visions. Let's brainstorm our themes, our messages. What do we want people to experience?"
The collaborative effort opened a door, and for the first time, Jake's uncertainty transformed into enthusiasm. They bounced ideas off each other with vigor, discussing everything from color palettes to emotional arcs. Mia reveled in this exchange. Their creativity flowed like a torrent, washing away lingering fears. Suddenly, Mia paused mid-sentence, struck by an unsettling thought. What if someone as critical as Ava finds a way to undermine what we create? What if she decides to pit our past against us instead of recognizing our growth? Jake's face clouded over again, and she knew they had to address that looming threat. "The scrutiny will always be there," she said, her voice firm. "But that fear can't temper our fire. We need to forge ahead, regardless of how others might perceive us." Sensing the urgency of their mission, Mia felt a longing to explore deeper. There were layers to Jake's hesitations she had yet to uncover, and the time would come soon for that, but for now she needed to maintain momentum. With renewed energy, they dove into their ideas, but the understanding that Jake's doubts hadn't vanished lingered between them like a silent specter. As they worked, Mia's mind circled back to their unfinished conversation. Deeper fears waited in the shadows, threats that lingered beneath the surface. How far could they push through these revelations without addressing the hidden scars? Would their partnership endure the scrutiny, not only from the outside world, but from within themselves? The pang of uncertainty remained strong, weaving through their collaborative energy as they began stacking their ideas into something formidable. The ticking clock was relentless, and as they sketched the outlines of their project, Mia knew she had to confront Jake soon about what lay beneath his uncertainty. Time was slipping through their fingers. Would they be ready before the world watched them unfold? Room for exploration and growth awaited them, but every choice they made could either amplify their triumphs or scratch deep at their vulnerabilities. Mia prepared herself for the pivotal conversations ahead. The moment of honesty was creeping closer, and it might just determine the future of their career and their bond. Amidst the bustling chaos of the cafe, Mia and Jake became an island of focused energy, surrounded by the noise, yet secluded in their creative brainstorm. The air thrummed with the urgency of their deadline, but the swirling ideas distracted her momentarily from the gnawing fear of failure that lingered just beyond their table. Each passing moment felt precarious, as if the solidity of their partnership was being tested by the hasty strokes of creativity. As they delved into vivid discussions about colors and themes, Mia felt a rush of exhilaration. There was an undeniable magic in collaboration, a spark ignited when ideas collided.
Finally, a flicker of strength broke through the doubt, shining like light piercing through storm clouds. I suppose we have to use what makes us realize our worth then, even if it's uncomfortable. I get that, he replied, a newfound determination sparking in his voice. The revelation massaged a warmth in Mia's chest and marked a pivotal shift in their discussion. This was the unfolding of something transformative, an evolution born from honest dialogue, a promise to embrace the complexities of personal narratives as they shaped their art. With fresh resolve anchoring their creative tide, they sat immersed in idea exchanges again, excitement tingling through their fingers. The spark ignited, pushing them past their boundaries. But amidst the flicker of creation, Mia's mind hovered on the challenges that still lay ahead. Could they muster the courage to bear their truths when the moment demanded it? As they laid the foundational concepts for their shared vision, a question lingered like a specter. Were they truly ready to confront the parts of their stories that could become both a source of inspiration and potential criticism? Would unveiling their vulnerabilities weave in or unravel the fabric of their partnership? Mia's heart raced with electrified anticipation, knowing full well that the true test was yet to come. The distance between knowing and doing was collapsing, and she realized she had pushed Jake towards his truth, but now she had to confront her own fears, ones as potent as his. The moment for connection was drawing nearer, and the impending vulnerability felt like both an opportunity and a threat. What lay ahead could alter everything. Mia sat back in her chair, a swirl of thoughts packing her mind with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The cafe buzzed on around them like an endless fountain of distraction. Yet amidst the din, clarity emerged from the muddy waters of her uncertainty. She couldn't afford to shy away from the challenges ahead, within herself or in the delicate partnership she was forging with Jake. "Okay, let's refocus," she said, placing her hands firmly on the table. "We need to tackle our vulnerabilities head-on. If we're going to be authentic, we must have the courage to use our experiences as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks." Jake nodded slowly, still processing their earlier conversation. The furrows on his brow eased slightly as he tapped a pencil against the paper. "You really think that showcasing our stories will resonate with others? I mean, is there value in that?" Mia felt a surge of determination. "Absolutely! Relatability is a potent force. When people see our evolution, they can find their own paths reflected in our work. It's raw, it's real, and it's something no one can take away from us." Jake flipped the pencil in his hand, his skepticism still simmering beneath the surface. But what if they don't understand? What if they see our past failures as weaknesses rather than lessons?
Mia's heart raced, recalling the whispers of doubt that had plagued her in the past. We can't control how others perceive us. However, we can control the narrative we present. We craft our stories. They don't define us. We redefine them. The conviction in her voice seemed to ripple through Jake, awakening something dormant within him. Perhaps he sensed the same deep-seated anxiety lurking beneath her words, the fear of judgment and of vulnerability. But they were both here, striving for growth, and perhaps they could create their own narrative together. "I guess," he hesitated, searching for the right words, "it's about acceptance, accepting where we've been and not being ashamed, right?" Mia smiled. "Exactly. It's about embracing those scars. They've shaped us, but they don't have to dictate our worth. Imagine what we can create from that understanding. Art that speaks of resilience, creativity rooted in struggle." As Jake absorbed her perspective, Mia felt a shift within herself as well. Talking to him about their vulnerabilities ignited a lost ember of her own fears. Her past echoed in the corners of her mind, moments of self-doubt that had shaped her, but not defined her. Perhaps it was also time for her to embrace them openly, to confront Ava's criticisms without flinching. What if we not only showcase our progress, but also lay bare our insecurities, she suggested, eager to push the boundaries of their collaborative vision further. What if we create pieces that reveal the very struggle to embrace our art, the back-and-forth growth between self-doubt and self-acceptance? Jake's eyes lit with curiosity, the hesitation of mere moments ago melting away. You mean portray those challenges within the art itself? Invite the audience into that journey? Mia nodded, feeling a surge of inspiration. Yes, think about how powerful it is to create not just the finished piece, but also the process, the thought behind it. We can be transparent and invite people to experience our raw moments. Their ideas converged, and with each suggestion they were constructing not just a series of art pieces, but a narrative that echoed their collective truths. Mia could see it all unfurling, a vision expanding beyond individual expressions to encapsulate their shared experiences. However, as exhilaration filled the air, a tendril of doubt still curled around Mia's spine. Was she truly prepared to craft art that exposed her past, which still haunted her at times? Would baring her vulnerabilities to the world yield deeper connections, or would it invite fresh criticism? She could sense the insecurities lurking in her personal shadows, akin to the way Jake had battled with his doubts. The flicker of camaraderie made her aware that overcoming the haunting silence of past failures was not just a solitary journey she was undertaking. Together they could forge a path of resilience. Mia's heart raced as she leaned closer to Jake. "We have to commit, Jake."
No holding back. We're on the precipice of something transformative, but I need to know if you're all in. Jake locked eyes with her, and in that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere. They were no longer just two artists hiding behind their past. They were aspiring to become something greater, united in a declaration of authenticity. "I'm all in," he finally replied, his voice steady and resolved. A wave of relief washed over Mia, mingled with the thrill of uncertainty. She felt the weight of their decision hang in the air, filled with promise, yet burdened by the risks. What remained to be seen was whether their shared leap would fortify their partnership or expose rifts they had yet to confront. All that was clear was that they were edging toward a confrontation with their truths, a reckoning that could either shatter or strengthen the foundation they had begun to build. As they resumed their brainstorming, igniting new ideas for their creative exploration, Mia was acutely aware that the moment of true revelation loomed closer than ever. Would the unveiling of their vulnerabilities entwine them deeper into a tapestry of shared understanding, or would their pasts unravel everything they had tried to create? The clock ticked on, and for Mia, the true trial was just beginning. Mia took a deep breath, her hand tremoring slightly as she reached for her sketchbook. The trembling wasn't just from the stakes of their new endeavor. It was also the sheer terror of letting her past seep into her present. She opened the book, the blank pages staring back at her as if daring her to fill them with her truth. They needed to dive into their vulnerabilities, but was she ready to bare her soul? Jake leaned forward, tracing his fingers over the sketches she had begun to create, a chaotic swirl of colors and lines that mirrored her jumbled emotions. "We're not just creating art, Mia. We're telling a story." His intensity was palpable, and Mia recognized the urgency in his voice. They were on the brink of something, but the weight of discovering their shared truths weighed heavily. "What story?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper as doubt crept into her mind. "The story of struggle, the story of growth, but also the story of failure. We need to be honest about where we've fallen short." His words sparked a flicker of recognition in her. They had both stumbled in their pasts, her in abandoning her artistic dreams for stability, and him in dismissing his own talents as childish whims. But each stumble had laid the groundwork for who they were now. The question loomed larger. Could they find the courage to embrace their failures? Mia scribbled her thoughts amidst the sketches, an impulse to articulate the chaos in her mind. If they were going to be authentic, they had to confront the bruised corners that tugged at her heart.
"I feel like my past is a shadow," she confessed, a tremor tracing through her words as she revealed half-formed thoughts. Every time I try to step forward, I feel it lurking. I know that feeling, Jake echoed, rubbing the back of his neck. But what if we turn those shadows into our Candace, transform them from burdens into beacons? Mia's agitation shifted, igniting a burst of inspiration. What if, within our artwork, we illustrate the fear of judgment, the self-loathing that came from not meeting expectations? The words spilled out like the paint she longed to use. We could depict the internal struggles layer upon layer. People might connect to that. A contemplative silence stretched between them as they absorbed the power of that idea. At that moment, Mia sensed not only a connection with Jake, but also with the ghosts of her past. They didn't need to bury their fears. They could elevate them. What if vulnerability could be their greatest ally? Yet the stillness was deceptive. Mia could hear the clamor of questions stirring in her mind. Would revisiting those shadows allow her to truly move forward? Would Jake echo her sentiments, or was he merely caught up in the excitement of the moment? There was too much at stake to assume he felt the same way. I need to challenge myself, she said suddenly, her voice firm. How about we each dive into our stories individually before merging them into the collaboration? Jake's eyebrows furrowed as he considered this new direction. Are you suggesting we break it down to a personal level first? Show how our struggles shaped our individual paths? Mia nodded fiercely. Yes, I want to put my story on paper, every painful detail. It's terrifying, but it feels necessary. I think we owe it to ourselves to understand what we're really trying to express. An electric tension shimmered between them. It sounds liberating, but also risky, Jake mused, his face clouding with hesitation. What if we come face to face with painful truths we're not ready to see? Mia felt her heart race again. The weight of that risk loomed ominously over her resolve. She was ready to confront her shadows, but what if they loomed larger than she imagined? I guess we'll only know if we step into that darkness, she said, her voice barely concealing the anxiety which surged within her. Jake's eyes narrowed, revealing a flash of determination. Then let's do it. As they separated the focus of their work, each artist sweeping into their own personal voids of expression, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this initiative was the precipice of greater discoveries. However, with every confident stroke, fear tangled with excitement. Moments passed like fleeting seconds, each filled with an unspoken understanding that they were about to plunge into depths unknown.
Yet beneath it all, as the clock ticked relentlessly toward their deadline, doubt bubbled persistently. Would revealing their raw truths foster a deeper bond, or would it threaten to unravel the partnership they had forged? With the stakes climbing ever higher, Mia knew the path ahead was fraught with potential risks. The deeper they descended into their individual narratives, the more likely it became that the very act of revealing their scars might unravel the fabric of their connection, or perhaps strengthen it in ways neither had expected. The next chapter awaited, and it could spell either triumph or downfall. As she sat, heart pounding with unresolved tension, the choices before her began to blur. Would she risk it all for the sake of authenticity, or would the reality of her own past prove too daunting to confront head-on? Mia sat in her workspace, the dim light from the lamp casting long shadows across the desk, cluttered with sketches and notes. The walls around her, adorned with reminders of her achievements, felt like an ironic prison, each past success now a weight rather than a shield. She had forged her identity with hard work, ridding herself of the shadows that once plagued her. But now she was initiating the journey down a different kind of path, one that demanded vulnerability. Her fingers trembled as she opened her sketchbook to a blank page. The challenge before her was daunting. What if embodying my failures strips away the success I've worked so hard to achieve? She wondered, feeling the familiar anxiety creeping back.
Yet deep down, she knew addressing her past was essential. She took a breath, feeling the air fill her lungs, grounding herself. Across town in Jake's studio, he stared at his easel, the canvas glaring back at him. He felt a swell of determination mixed with fear. The conversation with Mia had unsettled him, yet ignited a spark that refused to be extinguished. They were focused on weaving their stories together, threading their paths through visual art. But first, he needed to confront his own lingering doubts. The shadows of his past clamored for attention, and it was time to face them. Anchored by their pact to explore personal narratives, Mia penned the first lines of her story. She wrote about her childhood, the fostering of her dreams amidst poverty's constraints. Each line became a cathartic release, narrating the tumult of self-doubt she had often silenced. This was a woman who had endured. This was her truth. Meanwhile, Jake sketched isolated scenes from his life, moments where he had felt unseen, misunderstood, completely lost. He poured every ounce of his vulnerability onto the canvas, each stroke filled with pain, yet profoundly liberating. This was not merely art, it was confession, introspection brimming with authenticity. After days of solitary reflection, they reconvened in the cafe that had sparked their unconventional renewal.
The air felt charged, a tension woven with anticipation and fear. They exchanged nervous glances, knowing they stood on the precipice of exploration that could reshape their connection. "Are you ready?" Mia asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jake nodded, his face set with resolve. "Let's share." They unveiled their work, their truths laid bare on paper and canvas. With each revelation, an electric pulse coursed through the cafe, drawing in unsuspecting patrons. Mia shared her childhood dreams, describing vividly how the world had often eclipsed her passions. As she detailed her struggles to balance ambition with self-worth, a sense of relief flooded her. She was not just a successful businesswoman, she was a person molded by her experiences. Jake, in turn, articulated his fears of failure, his struggle to pursue art while doubting his worthiness. As he opened up about his artistic insecurities, the initial weight he had carried began to lighten. He had always compared his path to hers, but seeing Mia's vulnerability reinforced a realization within him. Her success didn't diminish his abilities, it illuminated a possibility. As they shared their narratives, the unspoken rift that had lingered between them slowly dissolved. They discussed how their individual journeys intertwined, how each had informed the other's path without either even realizing it. "I never viewed your ambition as a contrast to my journey," Jake admitted. "It has been a source of inspiration. I think I mistook it for inadequacy." Mia met his gaze, feeling a weight lift. "And I mistook my success for distance between us, when it was the very thing that could unite us." The cafe buzzed with life around them, yet their small world had expanded. They were creators, facing their pasts together. The fear of judgment that had once accompanied their encounters waned, replaced by a camaraderie born from shared vulnerability. As they exchanged ideas for their forthcoming exhibition based on these revelations, Mia felt a robust surge of confidence. This was no longer merely about art or business. It was about truth, about authenticity. They had achieved a pivotal breakthrough. Their greatest challenge was no longer the external pressures of competitors or societal expectations, but the oppressive shadows of their insecurities and the whispers of doubt. "This is the moment," Mia thought, "the moment I let my past empower my future instead of hinder it." She had learned to redefine herself through the lens of her history, not just as a businesswoman, but as an artist, a creator of narratives. Their exhibition plan blossomed, incorporating both of their backgrounds into a cohesive blend of experiences. They envisioned a space where reflections on art paralleled reflections on life, and where every visitor could resonate with the stories they told.
With the understanding of their truths forming a solid foundation, Mia and Jake cemented their partnership, moving forward with newfound purpose. They were poised to create something extraordinary, tangible yet deeply rooted in emotion. As they left the cafe, Mia marveled at the ease of their discussions, the lightness in her chest where once there had been tension. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not merely in their work, but in her ability to embrace her past and transform it into something magnificent. "I'm proud of us," she said suddenly, turning toward Jake with a soft smile. "Me too," he replied, a warmth radiating from his expression. They had conquered the chaos of doubt together. The remaining journey might press on each of them, testing their resolve, but they were now emboldened by their truths, intertwined and harmonized. As they stepped into the new dawn of opportunity, Mia realized they had ascended beyond ambition. They had created a legacy rooted in authenticity. Their collaboration would not merely be successful, it would be transformative, a celebration of resilience that echoed both their individualities and their collective journey. This was fulfillment, nurturing dreams while simultaneously nurturing one another. They were poised to capture the world, not as individuals or remnants of their past, but as resilient creators, standing firm in the light of their truths. Amidst the birth of this new chapter, Mia felt a powerful urge to share her journey. Momentous storytelling awaited not just in art, but also in the acknowledgement of experiences, her experience, Jake's, and the collective narratives they would inspire in others. And now, to all of you watching this journey unfold, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spark more stories like this. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread this message of transformation together.